It is Wednesday, October 11th, and the Give and Go Show is back in your life. My name is Griffin, as always, joined by Matt Modi and Matt Ferentinos. Really juiced after that intro. So if you got awesome into the chat early, feeling good, feeling great. Before we get this episode going, we are not joined by super producer Elliot Chiatani this week. We hope to see him next week. We've got one topic this week, one topic only. We're going through Western Conference over/under win totals. We do this every year before the start of the season. Last year we did pretty well, I guess. You guys went over 500. I went a little bit under 500. Not so great.
Who won?
But the ones that we had smashes on, the ones that we really strongly recommended, we went 8-5. Before we get going with the Western Conference over/unders, make sure you click the like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe if you have not done so already. Comment below your own personal over/unders for the season, if there are any that you're really into, or if we say any that you think are really dumb or really smart. Comment below and let us know. If you're listening after the fact on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you click that follow button. Make sure you rate and review. Follow us on social media. That's it. That's the spiel. We're going to get into it. Modi, Ferentinos, good to see you, boys.
You remember who won last year's over/unders? I can't remember.
Based on you asking that question, it leads me to believe that you were the one that won. You got 18 and Ferentinos got 17. Is that right?
It was close. Yeah.
Or like 19 and 18 or something.
Is that I did in fact win. So I'm gunning for back-to-back champs here.
Yeah, I really wish that I hadn't picked the Lakers and the Wizards to hit over, although the Wizards were just so close. And I think we actually should have each given us all like one more, because I think we all took either the Thunder under or the Jazz. There was an under that we took. Maybe it might have been the Kings under, actually. And then before the season started, we were like, no, we're actually taking the over on this.
Yeah.
But we didn't update it. We got it right, though. We got it right after the fact.
Whatever happens on the show is what stands. Even if you change your mind,
sure.
Tough shit.
That's the canon. Okay. All right. We're going to get into it. We're going through this alphabetically. Anything you guys want to touch on before we jump into it?
That's why I work out the anime music.
Yeah. You go work out after this is some anime music. I'm not going to say go Phillies, but I am happy for you, Modi. They just absolutely obliterated the Braves. Yeah. So they're up 2-1 in this series, and they've got another game in Philadelphia. Tough for the Atlanta fans, but I just don't feel that bad for them because I don't like their fan base.
I don't like
Blooper. Old Nationals.
You don't like Blooper? Yeah. I'm not a big Philly fanatic guy, but as we all know, I am a big gritty guy. So by the transitive property, at least part of me supports Philadelphia sports.
I didn't have an opinion on Blooper until he got in a social media fight with someone and just came across like just a little bit of a baby. And you should probably know better than to get in a social media fight with Philly fans, because it's going to go they're going to fight dirty is what I'm looking for.
Do we think the guy who's in the Blooper costume got in a fight with that, or is it like a different team entirely? Like, do you get to have Twitter fingers if you're also in the costume?
That's a good question. It would be funny if like someone totally different ran the account and then like Blooper showed up in the game and was getting mobbed by Philly fans. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, it's just so. Yeah, that would be funny. That I don't know. I don't know who actually runs it, but I do know that he got into a very online fight with. I don't know exactly what it was, because online Twitter fights I ignore.
Sure.
But I do know that he just got extremely bullied online by Phillies fans.
Being a mascot and getting into any sort of social media fight is the most online thing that's ever happened.
It really is.
We'll save that for our other podcast about just insane internet activities. But let's get into the Western Conference over/unders. We're going to start with the Dallas Mavericks. Last year, this team finished 38-44. This year, Vegas, FanDuel specifically, has them at 44.5 wins. To my point, all of this is going to be FanDuel. Just let's say that ahead of time. Ferentinos, I see you shaking your head, so we're going to start with you. You taking the over? You taking the under? It seems like you're taking the under.
I am taking the under on the Mavericks. I love Luka Doncic. He's a lot of fun to watch, but I just don't think Kyrie and Luka is going to work. I mean, as I think Modi added on the stats here. They were 10-18 post Kyrie trade, which is just not that great. And they got like blown out. It was 19-3 at one point. I know it's preseason, but it was against the Timberwolves, who look really good. I mean, I know it's not, you don't want to put too much stake into what's happening in preseason, but the teams that have played a lot of starters, I just paid attention to see how they're going to look. I mean, Anthony Edwards, we saw in the FIBA tournament, was amazing. We'll get to the Wolves. We're on the Mavs. But
yeah,
Mavs,
are we huffing on Timberwolves copium already? Are we already on that Timberwolves gas?
I was on that last year too. I think we all were, but I just think with the Mavs, like, they don't have an offensive identity or really an identity outside of Luka and Kyrie when they're dribbling the ball a lot. Like, they are dynamic on offense, but they also have to be excellent on defense, which I don't think they're going to be this year. I think the best defensive player potentially is going to be Derek Lively. And I mean, as a rookie, it's just a lot to ask from a guy to come in and be that much of an impact. So, I mean, 44, they were 38-44 last year. And I just see them really struggling to get any win that they can get. So I'm taking the under.
Modi?
If my dogs start freaking out, I might ask you to bow into this one because they won't stop barking.
Of course.
I'm also on the under. Side note, it felt like Vegas had no idea what to do with half of the West. They basically just priced them at 44 or 45.5, just threw their hands up. We're like, yeah, we don't know. But I'm on the under on this one. And I think this is one of those ones where, like, even if I get it wrong, I'm not going to feel bad about myself. Like, I just don't think that they have enough outside of Kyrie and Luka. And people are going to go back and say, like, well, look how good they were when it was Luka and Jalen Brunson. But Jalen Brunson was fine playing second fiddle to Luka, which Kyrie Irving is absolutely not. And they also just torched their depth with the trade for Kyrie Irving. So they don't have, like, Finney Smith was an important piece just because he didn't want to do anything on offense and he would play defense. He would just shoot. And they're going to, like, I like a lot of their young guys, like Derek Lively. I like, but he's a rookie. As Ferentino said, I like Jaden Hardy. Shout out my second pick in the draft, the expansion
the team that you were building for the future. Let's be very clear about that. Not a team for this year.
Not for this year. And I think Josh Smith, the other guy, I like. But like, their defense is going to be terrible. But I like we said, they went 10-18 post Kyrie trade. Granted, some of that was like they tanked the end of the season and like basically admitted it. And not to mention, like, they're both kind of an injury risk, and Kyrie Irving's just a flight risk. He might just decide he doesn't want to play because he got paid, right? Like, he got the full contract.
Right? Yeah, I don't remember if they gave him the number of years that he wanted, but I mean, I think he got 4 years and whatever the max amount was, which is about as close as you can get to the full 5 years. He might have even gotten the 5 years. Yeah, bad decision in my opinion. You know, obviously in your opinion as well.
Yeah, so I'm on the under for sure.
I'm also on the under. There's really not a whole lot that I can say that the two of you have not already said. I'm actually smashing the under on this one. I don't trust this team at all. Yeah, I'm getting started off with a smash from the jump. Look at their big man depth, like their genuine big man depth. It's a rookie, it's Rashawn Holmes, and it's kind of Dwight Powell, who's been their big man depth for a few years now. Dwight Powell is not a center. Let's get that right out of the way. He's like 6'9". Maxi Kleber being like kind of a center for you is not the position you want to be in. Like, it's a team of guards and wings, but the guards and wings don't really work all that well together. I just don't trust this team even a little bit.
Yeah, including Elliot, we're all on the under on this one. I am. If you see me typing, it's because I'm updating the spreadsheet as we speak, just because we don't have what happened last year. But yeah, this is one where we're unanimously on the under.
Yeah. So to the Dallas faithful, Ferentinos, I'm glad you're only a Cowboys fan and not a Mavericks fan.
I'm not that happy.
Yeah,
not a good time to be a Cowboys fan right now. But I just like every year. I don't think Luka and the 34th best player, according to ESPN, can really get it done. According to Kyrie, who the fuck cares? I never will. Rankings don't mean a damn thing in the league. So let's see what he does. I just think awesome. We've seen this experiment so many times. It's so funny to look in the comment threads of like a Reddit post when Kyrie says, I'm going to be here forever, guys. It's like, see Boston, see Brooklyn, see all of his prior teams that he like blew up. And this Mavs don't even have like a core to really blow up, but we can move on from them. We're smashing the under.
Yeah, all four of us are smashing, or at least I'm smashing the under. All four of us are taking the under. Let's move on to the Denver Nuggets, who last year, not only did they win the title, but they went 53-29. This year, FanDuel has them at exactly the same spot, 52.5 wins. Modi, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, so this is a smash over for me. I always love like teams that have postseason success and then just immediately the following year, just like parlaying that into just wild success the following year. My favorite example of that is the Warriors. Like they were amazing the first year they won, and then the second year they won is when they went 73-9. And like part of the Nuggets, like they went over this last year, and that was basically including them not carrying the entire post trade deadline. They were so far in first place that you could clearly tell that the effort level wasn't there, especially defensively. Like they turned it on immediately when the playoffs started, just to kind of show you what their ceiling is. Losing Bruce Brown hurts, as Ferentinos mentioned on last week's episode, but I think they have enough depth in shots at young guys where they can probably withstand that. Like I love Christian Braun. I actually don't know if it's Brown or Braun.
He's going to be there. They announced he's going to be their sixth man this year.
Yeah, I mean he's good. He's good, and his mom's probably going to get a lot of airtime, which is great for us. And I think
a win for us and therefore the world.
Yes, exactly. And they also, I heard a million times from Zach Lowe that they love Peyton Watson. So we'll see. Like he didn't play last year, but he mentioned every time he could that they love Peyton Watson. And also like this is Jamal Murray's first year back from a devastating knee injury. It was Michael Porter Jr.'s first year back from his 9th back surgery, whatever it was with him. So there's reasons to believe that both of them could be better. And reality is, as long as Jokic plays 70 plus games, they're going to just gobble up wins. That's just what it is. So they're a smash over for me.
Yeah. Ferentinos?
I have not really a lot to add because I made my own sheet and own separate notes. And it's kind of funny. I said, losing Bruce Brown will hurt, but they had a really good rookie draft. And I can't see any reason why they won't continue to cruise. I just think more because they just won and they have that immediate continuity. Kind of similar to the Warriors point you were bringing up before. Like Jamal Murray looks great. Jokic looks great. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is fitting there really nicely and is playing that role. He played really well in the preseason game. Aaron Gordon looks great. They just have an identity. They know what wins. They know how to win. And I'm kind of curious, I think for the good teams, like, what do you guys think? A little sidetrack. I'm definitely taking the over on the Nuggets, especially with the over-under as it is. Because, yeah, they were the 1 seed in the West with 53 wins, and their over-under is 52.5. I think they could easily repeat that. Do you think the in-season tournament is going to impact some of these over and unders? Like, do you think teams are really going to care about the in-season tournament? Like, will the league push it to try to get them to compete? I'm, like, curious how that's going to impact the over-unders.
So I don't know enough about the in-season tournament. I honestly haven't read a ton about it. Is everyone participating in it, or is it only the bottom 12 teams?
No, everybody's. I don't know exactly. I don't know a ton about it either, but I do know that everybody's participating. And I think
they're going to get paid more. They're going to get a bonus.
Yeah, if they win.
It's just the championship game that doesn't count, but every other game leading up to it is a regular season game.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a week in November where every game is going to count towards the in-season tournament. And then, as Ferentino said, the teams that are in the finals are technically going to play 83 games, but that's not going to count towards anything.
I'll tell you, that makes me think that the best teams in the conferences are going to probably try less hard because they're already going to get there's already playoff bonuses that players get. There's championship bonuses that players get. Obviously, it's good for your branding to win that stuff, but guys that are already contending for something are probably not going to take this very seriously. Whereas, your Spurs and your Rockets and your Hornets and your Wizards of the world are probably going to be we're trying to get paid. We're trying to get additional wins. I can't imagine the Nuggets coming off of a real title unless they all just convince themselves that this matters. I don't think they're going to give a shit about this.
I think the teams aren't going to care until it's the finals. I think they're just going to play it normally. I don't think they're going to try harder. I don't think they're going to try less hard. I think they're going to play it normally until it gets to the finals. And then I think they actually will care.
Yeah, it makes me think that certain teams probably might not try to make the finals because it's additional games on your leg.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting point, Ferentinos. I'm not sure how the in-season tournament will affect it. I'm sure it'll probably take us a few years before we can actually look at data on do the good teams do well? Do the good teams kind of take them off for a little bit? I'm disagreeing with you guys. I'm actually taking the under. I'm taking honestly, probably the slightest under potentially possible. I think they're going to be about a 50-win team. But I we see this oftentimes from teams that have just won a championship. They get off to slow starts more often than not. They kind of take their foot off the gas. They already know what it takes to get there, so they know when they need to peak correctly. And looking at their roster last year, 6 of their 7 best players played 65 or more games. Everybody except for Michael Porter Jr. played basically the amount that you would need to qualify for an award. Michael Porter Jr. only missed it by a game or 2. It's a big assumption with this team, with the exception of Jokic, that has a lot of guys that have had health issues, to assume that they're going to be as healthy this year as they were last year. I still think talent-wise, they're a top 3 team in the league as a whole. It's them, Boston, the Bucks is probably your top 3, and I think Denver obviously has the best continuity. But in terms of regular season wins, I think they're just not going to be that concerned. If they go into the playoffs as a 2 or 3 seed with 50 wins, I just don't see them being that bothered by it. So I'm going to take the under on it. I'm not going to smash it by any means. They could win 50. They could win 60. They could do the Warriors thing that you mentioned. And then you guys had both overs, correct?
Yeah.
Elliot had the over as well. So I'm the lone dissenter on this one.
Yeah, at least it'd be boring if we all agreed on the first 2 teams. So that's good.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Golden State Warriors, who won 44 games and 33 losses last year. Vegas this year has them at 48.5 wins. I'll start on this one. I take the under. I'm smashing the under on the Warriors. They moved Jordan Poole, which is ostensibly a positive thing. They also lost Dante DiVincenzo. Jordan Poole and DiVincenzo were the 2 players on the team who played the most games last year. Poole played, I think, all 82. Dante played 72. So sorry, he was not the second most active. He was like the 3rd or 4th most active. Curry's getting older. Clay's getting older. Draymond's getting older. Kevon Looney's having a lot of injury issues. The team as a whole is really well constructed to win playoff games. They're not necessarily well constructed to win regular season games. I see them being a play-in team. I don't see them being a great regular season team again this year. I don't believe in them. I don't know how much longer we can expect Steph Curry to be, a 60-plus game player. He's not that much younger than LeBron James, a guy who we talk about every single year for how many games he plays at an elevated age, and he's not playing that many anymore. I'm taking the under on the Warriors, and I'm smashing that one. Ferentinos, I'm curious your thoughts.
Kind of like Ad Astra, we're going opposite takes here. I'm taking the over. I'm not going to smash the over, but there's one person that you didn't mention. I think the point guard literally elevates every single regular season team that he plays on. I don't see any reason why he doesn't do that with the Warriors. Steph, Clay, and Dre are all getting older, but Clay continues to recover from that injury. I don't think he's going to be the player that he once was, but I think that any time removed from suffering a major injury like that and just being able to continue to play is going to, I think, have a positive impact and make him look better. I mean, Steph Curry's game, because he has cardio and because he can shoot, I think is going to age well as long as he stays in shape and does what he does. So I just think that, if anything, the Warriors really need a guy that can create out of the system to get points. And that's exactly what Chris Paul does. I know he's old. I know he comes up short in the playoffs. We're talking regular season over-unders, which is why I think I'm taking the over on this one.
I'll just counter that really quickly before we move on to Modi for his take. The reason that I mentioned Jordan Poole and DiVincenzo playing as many games as they did, Chris Paul played 59 games last year. He played 65 the year prior. He's 38 years old. He'll be 39 by the time we get to the playoffs. I agree with you that Chris Paul is probably one of the best bench pieces you could potentially get in this league. The fact that he's even potentially going to be a bench piece is crazy. It's a health issue with me. So they might win 75% of the games he plays. But if he only plays, 45 to 50 games, then you start to think of where else are you getting wins throughout the year, particularly if you have a Clay injury or a Dre injury or Curry has to sit for rest or anything like that. But I totally get your point. I'm not a believer on the Warriors. I haven't been for the past couple years. The year they beat the Celtics, that was stupid of me. But the year, like this past year where they got smashed by the Lakers, I was pretty vindicated by it. So we'll move on to Modi for this one.
Yeah, I'm on the over on this one. I will admit there's like probably 75% of the teams in the West. I am like a shrug emoji. Like I have no idea what to expect from like literally 75% of the teams in the West. And they are one of those teams. Like 48.5 is one of the higher over unders. Like I mentioned, a lot of the West is just in the middle of the pack at that like 44 to 45 range. I think it's the third highest in the West or second highest in the West, I believe, something like that. But I can get on board. Like if you want to sell me, or I'm selling myself, that last year was just like the season from hell, because the weirdness with Jordan Poole before the season even started, with him and Draymond Green, and then Draymond needing like the whole contract issue, and then Steph having two separate kind of freaky, weird injuries. He had the shoulder thing, and then he had the knee thing. He is older, and he had the year where they had the second pick where he broke his hand, but he's mostly been fine post those ankle injuries he's had at the very beginning of his career. So I think he'll probably play enough games. Clay, like Ferentino said, is never going to be the guy that he was, but he didn't play basketball the entire offseason because he was so paranoid about getting hurt, because that's how he got hurt the second time. This year, he actually at least is playing basketball in the offseason. So I think you can at least understand that he might be a little bit better than he was last year. And I can just see this being a revenge season for those three. Like they know they're getting older. They know they maybe only have one more year of this. And I could just see that being one of those years where they're like, screw it. Like we're going to go all out for this year. You could say that it was the same way 2 years ago, but I think how bad last year went, and then being reinvigorated with someone like Chris Paul will make them care a little bit more. Like, let's get this guy's first one. Let's get our fifth. So yeah, it's not a smash play by any means, but I'm on the over.
If we get a video in a week or two, right before the season starts, of Chris Paul and Draymond Green fighting each other in practice, are you guys going to flip to unders?
I will change my mind.
Okay, all right. But what we said on the pod is what matters. All right, let's move on to the Houston. Yeah, we gotta be committed to it. So the two of you took the overs. I took the under, and it looks like Elliot took the under as well. I smashed on this one. So if you want to follow me, best of luck. Let's move on to the Houston Rockets. Last year they went a very, very poor 22-60. This year, FanDuel has them at 31.5 wins. Ferentinos, let's get started with you. How are the Houston Rockets going to do this year?
I'm taking the over on it. I think that Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks, although they're not obviously people's like headline free agent acquisitions, they're guys that are proven veterans that have been on winning teams before. I mean, the Grizzlies didn't get that far in the playoffs, but they were still a very good regular season team and had postseason success. Fred VanVleet won a championship for the Raptors. They bring on Ime Udoka as the coach. They have a lot of young talent, and I think just bringing a veteran presence to that locker room is going to lead to wins. I think just like having proven players that are used to winning, and then bringing them around young talent usually works well. And I mean, I don't think they're going to get a lot higher than 31 wins. I just think that it definitely adds. They're going to be much better than the 22-60 last year. So I'm not like confident. I don't think this is even a playoff team, but I think that they're going to elevate their win total by at least 10.
If 31.5 or 32, I guess, is enough to be a playoff team in the West, so many things have gone wrong for so many different teams. Like we've talked about this on previous episodes. Planes have gone down at that point. Like that's what it would take. Modi, what's your take on the Rockets?
Yeah, I am 4 for 4 in agreement with Ferentino's. I'm also on the over. They are at least going to be trying. Like they hired Ime Udoka. They signed the Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks, as Ferentino said. I'm very much not a Dillon Brooks guy, but he's at least a professional basketball player. And last year,
I saw you dogging him on Twitter today, or maybe yesterday.
It was yesterday. Yeah, they don't
have a nut shot.
Yeah, that guy's he's a total loser. But they were such a clown show last year that just being professional, I think, is going to do a world of difference for them. I also think like Kevin Porter Jr. is a negative player, and I doubt he's going to even play on this team at all. They have young talent that I think could make a leap. Like I really liked Josh Green or their second pick 2 years ago, Jalen Green. Jalen Green. My brain is frazzled. Jalen Green. Yeah. I think he's going to take a step up. I like Şengün. We'll see what happens with Jabari Smith. But but 31.5 is just such a low number. Like if they get 32 wins, you would say it's a great season, but that still would hit the over. So I'm on the over on this one. Not a smash play by any means, but yeah.
It's nice to be back on the same page as the two of you. I'm also taking the over. I don't think it's going to be a lot over. And like, I'm not enthused by this team, but they've got good pieces. Fred VanVleet is a good player. Dylan Brooks is a relatively good player, and he adds something that this team was absolutely missing. To your point about Kevin Porter Jr., while I think Kevin Porter Jr. is a talented player, I think basically every aspect of both his game and his personality were things that you did not want on this team. There's a lot of guys on this team that can make shots. You boneheaded basketball. You don't need that. Jury's still out for me on Udoka on whether or not he's actually the coach he's hyped up to be, but he is likely a coaching improvement over who they've had the past couple years. This is not an exciting team to me. Like, I think they could be in a couple of years. They're not this year. I'm going to take the over as well. Elliot has the smash under, so he's the only one disagreeing with us on this one. I guess he sees them as being, somewhere in the 20s. But 3 for 4 ain't bad. Let's move on to the lesser of the Los Angeles teams. A little bias there. The Los Angeles, honestly, not even biased. That's accurate. That's true. No. That's the reality of the situation.
One LA 18 championships, the other one doesn't.
Yeah, Clippers fans, jump in the chat and try and talk you shit and try and prove me wrong about that. 17 titles. Whatever. The Los Angeles Clippers last year, they went 44-38. This year, Vegas has them at a slightly better 45.5. Modai, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, this is another shrug emoji, but I have the under on this one. I have no idea what to expect from the Clippers. They could win 50 games. They could win 35 games. They have like the combustion factor of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard possibly not playing. Russell Westbrook, who was great for them last year, so much better than I thought. Are we just expecting him to be just as much of a positive player this year? Maybe, maybe not. He was a negative player for basically his entire tenure with the Lakers. And then like there's the whole James Harden thing. If you just look at their roster and the talent, I like it, but there's just so much weirdness and negativity with the team in terms of just the injuries and stuff. And it seems like they're kind of just worn out of each other. It's been so long since the PG trade and they haven't won anything. Kind of seems like they're just kind of over it, but they're building this new arena so they can't blow it up. So it's just a weird thing going on. I'm on the under. I could look stupid if somehow they play 65 games. I'm not expecting that. So give me the under.
The Clippers remind me a lot, and they're in the same town at this point, of the Chargers, where there's like all this talent assembled, and you look at it every year and you say they win at this position and this position and this position, and they've got a top 5 guy at this position, and it just never coalesces into any sort of playoff success, whether because of injuries or coaching or what is like personalities. I think the Chargers are a better team than the Clippers are, like all things considered. But there's something about these franchises that is just kind of snake bit. I'm on the same page as you. It's very much a shrug emoji from me. Like, and that's not just me and my Lakers bias. I fooled myself into caring about this Clippers team for what feels like a decade straight from the Lob City era till now. And there's just nothing to show for it. I'm taking the under. It's a slight under. Like you said, they could win 50. They could win 35. I think it's all going to come crumbling down yet again this year. They might be like a 41-41 team, and maybe they'll make noise in the playoffs. It'd be nice to see it happen for once. But I just don't care about them. I'm taking the under, and it looks like Elliot has the smash. Or no, he has just the under on this. Ferentinos, what are your thoughts?
I will be the dissenting opinion. I'm going to take the over. My note is Paul George and Kawhi Leonard arrived at camp healthy and without restrictions. So as long as they play, I think they're a dominant team. They clearly, won 45 games without either of them last year. Russell Westbrook was playing really good when he got there. That was a positive for both Los Angeles teams to move on from that relationship. But they won 44 last year. Sorry, not 45. But I just think and I do think injuries are obviously a concern. You have to think about it. But if they can play any minutes together, I mean, they've clearly taken their time rehabbing and trying to heal. With Kawhi, it might be degenerative and it's just going to be constant pain management. And if he can still play, but the fact that he's still trying to go for it, why not? I'm going to take the over on the Clippers.
I do agree with you on the Russ thing. I think Russ is a positive for the Clippers, basically because it's such an inverse situation from the Lakers. It's a team that's built to take advantage of a guy like Russ, whereas the Lakers were not even a little bit. But again, we're assuming health for him. Like you said, you're kind of assuming health for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. It's October 11th. The season starts in 2 weeks. I give them towards maybe the end of November before one of them is out for, at least 2 or 3 games straight. We'll see how it goes. Looks like we've got 3 unders and an over. So Ferentinos is the dissenting opinion on this one. Let's move on to my Los Angeles Lakers. Last year, they went 43-39. This year, FanDuel has them at 47.5. I'll start on this one because, again, they're my Los Angeles Lakers. They were 18-9 post-Rush trade for a 67% win percentage. That's very good. And then you add in the playoff win percentage prior to them running up to the buzzsaw that was the Nuggets. Also very good. But I don't want to take too much from that because the Lakers were basically fighting for their absolute lives for 3 months straight at that point. From, I guess, about February until when they got bounced from the playoffs in May. The team is better than it was last year. I don't think there's a whole lot of questions about that, not only because they added pieces that work better with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but there's also some addition by subtraction by not having Russell Westbrook at all on your roster this year. The big questions are always going to be, is Anthony Davis going to be healthy for 65 or more games? Is LeBron James going to be healthy for 65 or more games? I'm going to say barely. And I think the rest of the team is good enough that even if they're not healthy for that much, like they should win games where those two are sitting, which they wouldn't have done in the past. I am, however, still going to take the under because 47.5 is just it. They're not a 48 win team. Like 48 wins, you're trending towards we're going to be a 50 win team with the exception of a couple close losses here. I don't see them being a 50 win team. That requires their 2 superstars to play a lot of games. I don't think they're going to miss games. Austin Reeves is probably going to miss games. Vanderbilt can't play offense. They've got all these really good pieces, but when LeBron is out, it's just not going to be the greatest product in the world. They're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to go deep in the playoffs this year, just like they did last year. But I don't see them winning 48 games. So I'm going to take the under on this one.
I am surprised. I literally wrote over because I just assumed you were taking the over. So I
did hype it up. And then I took the under anyways.
That was well done. I agree with you. I have the under here as well, mostly just because it's a shrug emoji. Like are LeBron and Anthony Davis going to stay healthy, mildly healthy? If yes, then they're going to go over. If no, then they're probably going to go under. And their team is remarkably better today than they were 1 year ago at this point, 100%. But you made the point that I was going to make. They were fighting for the playoff lives for basically the last 3 months of the season. Now they can at least cool their jets a little bit. Like they're probably not going to win at a 66.7% win percentage. And with how jumbled the West is, it could be like it was last year, where there were a lot of teams in like the 43 to 49 win, 43 to 49 wins. And it really just depends on like the end of the year. Are you in a secure playoff spot or are you not? And obviously we can't predict that, but I think there's just more reasons that they could go under than over. So I'm with you. I'm on the under.
I think we're unanimous here. I'm also taking the under for a lot of the reasons that, you guys had mentioned. It's just LeBron and AD need to carry the load. They're not getting any younger, and LeBron's been playing less games per year. Anthony Davis, his injuries have always kind of been a question mark. I swear he's one of those players, just like KD, where he falls all the time and it always looks like a crazy injury, and then he gets up and is okay, but it's like you have to hold your breath whenever you watch him play.
Is there anybody else you can think of that falls all the time who might be a big man who might play for a team that one of us cares about? Anyone come to mind?
When's the last time Embiid had a serious injury like AD and KD have had?
Wasn't he injured going into the playoffs?
Yeah, he did hurt his knee, but he missed like a week. He missed like 7
right.
days.
Serious injury. Yeah, you're right. It's been a while.
Like Anthony Davis missed like 2 months last year with that foot injury. Yeah. Kevin Durant missed 2 months basically every year since post Achilles.
Kevin Durant slipped during warmups and missed like 3 weeks of the season. He missed
oh my God.
like a minute before the game started. Like the man is made of glass.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Right when he got traded to the Suns, right? He got hurt.
Yeah.
It was his home debut. People, the game was sold out. Like people were ready to see him, and nope, got pulled right before the game because his legs went out from under him.
Like, time to go hit a blunt in the locker room.
Yeah. I guess that's the option.
I guess just player to watch, though, for the Lakers. I'm taking the under. I don't think it's a lot under 47 wins, though. Like, I think they are actually going to get close to that 50 wins. So I think that they're kind of spot on being one of those teams that are above that 44.5 range. I think they are going to be one of the better teams. And I'm curious to see Austin Reeves' development. I mean, he was a really interesting and praised player for FIBA. It seems like a lot of guys like him. It seems like he's a great teammate. And I think that just having more of the green light, maybe a little more confidence, maybe LeBron does let him play a little more plays and they run more of the offense through Reeves, which will be interesting to see. But I don't think that just AD is going to miss games. LeBron's going to miss games. I think to a lot of your points to the Nuggets, where I just think the Nuggets have everything going right for them. So I think they're just going to win games easy. I think the Lakers, though, would take more of the, hey, let's just get to the playoffs. Let's get to the playoffs when everything is right. We know what we need to look like to win in the playoffs. So let's just get to that point. And if it takes some players resting, last year it took everything to just get to the playoffs. Maybe they build up some wins early and then can rest after that. But I don't see them getting above 47.5. So I'm taking.
I feel a little sick to my stomach saying this, but this year's Lakers team, and obviously the year hasn't started yet, so this could end up being wrong. They remind me a little bit of the Phillies from last year and this year, where it's kind of like a team of chaos, where it's like just make it to the wild card or make it to the play-in, and then your offense explodes because you've got 2 of the best players in basketball or 4 of the 20 best players in baseball. Let's just take things over once we get to the playoffs. I could see that kind of being the case, much like the Phillies were they were like, what, 88 wins?
This year, I think they won 88, 89. Last year.
Yeah, which is the same as the Nats were when they went to the wild card, and the same as the Marlins when they were the wild card teams. If you can get to the playoffs and you get hot at the right time, anybody can win anything. That's who the Lakers are going to be in my mind this year. Looks like we all took the under. Elliot smashed the under. I don't agree with that because that means that they're probably not making the playoffs, and that's really depressing for me. But we'll move on before I start getting upset on the pod. Next up is the Memphis Grizzlies. Last year, they went 51-31. This year, FanDuel has them at 45.5. Ferentinos, do you want to get this one started?
Yeah, I mean, they swapped Dillon Brooks for Marcus Smart, which was kind of their like big. It's like, oh, maybe they upgraded the position. They got another like defensive-minded guard that would just fit the kind of attitude and vibe that like the Grizzlies have going. They do talk a lot of shit. They haven't backed it up. But I just think missing Ja for 25 games is going to have an impact on this team. Yes, they did. They were one of those teams where weren't they like 15-0 at one point, the first time Ja missed games? Like they were just insane without him. But I think a lot of that was some of their depth pieces that they had, which no longer are on the team anymore. They still have really good guys like Jaren Jackson Jr. So they're going to be an interesting team to watch. I just think that losing Ja Morant, who is one of the best guards and most talented guards in the league for 25 games, and then him working back into the lineup after, I just don't really see them getting it. I'm going to take the under on this.
Yeah. Modi?
I have the over here, actually. They've consistently won regardless of who's in and out of the lineup. 2 years ago, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. missed the majority of the beginning of the season. They smashed the over last year, or that 2 years ago last year. Ja missed a bunch of games. They still smashed the over. They have the biggest negative delta in the West, which just means their over-under is the biggest amount of games
drop.
Drop. The wording of that puts my brain in a pretzel, but
sure.
Biggest drop from last year.
You got delta, but you lost out on drop.
Yeah, well, 2 Ds, double Ds is a little too much for a brain to handle.
People say that about you.
Everyone does. But they're like, I don't know, 37-24 overall without Ja. They still have a ton of depth on that team, including young guys last year who looked good but didn't play a lot. David Roddy, Santi Aldama, something like that, are good. Marcus Smart, I think, is an upgrade over Dillon Brooks. They basically bring a lot of the same stuff, but Marcus Smart is like 10% less of a complete idiot psychopath loser than Dillon Brooks. And I think if you could imagine it, somehow tries to do less on offense, where Dillon Brooks, there's those games where he would just shoot them out. And I think they do need someone with that edge. So I think that was a good move. And like 45.5, it's one of those teams that's just in the middle of the pack. I just think that they're one of those teams that just gobbles up regular season wins. There's some teams like the Lakers who probably, like in a playoff series, I would still take the Lakers. But there are some teams, to go to your Phillies example, the Braves just gobble up regular season wins. But and the Memphis Grizzlies are kind of like that. And I think, so yeah, I think once again, 45.5, I'll take the over.
Yeah. I'm excuse me, more towards the other side of things. I'm taking the under on this one. Not that I think the Grizzlies are going to be particularly bad by any means, but missing Ja for 25 is a big deal. And I think losing Tyus Jones to the Wizards is going to be a much bigger deal than people think, because, you know, you think of him as like a 24-minute per game guy. He was one of the best bench point guards in the league last year. He might be the best bench point guard in the league. He basically does everything that you would want your starter to do, just in less minutes. And he's going to be starting for the Wizards this year. So we'll see if that continues to track, or if the usage rate is going to kind of screw him up a little bit. I think just, you know, Desmond Bane's very good. Jaren Jackson Jr. is very good. Steven Adams, Xavier Tillman, Aldama, all these guys, they're all very talented players, and it's a deep team. I just think missing your best point guard and then the guy who replaced your best point guard for such a long period is probably going to mess with team continuity a little bit. And there's probably going to be a lot more pressure on Desmond Bane than there normally would be. And it's just, he's very good. Desmond Bane is an incredible player. I don't think it's necessarily the best role for him to have the ball all the time, because he is more of a scoring guard than he is a pass first guy. We'll see how Triple J's health is. We'll see how Steven Adams' health is, because he's getting a little bit older. But I am going to take the under on this one. I think they're still going to be a playoff team. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be probably between 42 and 44 wins that are playoff teams. And they're still absolutely a threat because they've got a really good big man rotation. And when Ja comes back, they could reel off a ton of wins. But he's going to be probably a little bit out of game shape. He's missing a lot of games. It's going to take some time. I took the under. Modi, you took the over. Ferentinos, you took the under?
The under. Yep.
And you took the under, and Elliot took the over. So we're 2-2.
Officially split.
Wow. I think that's our first official 2-2 split. So that's exciting. It took us until the Grizzlies.
Also, Tyus Jones, I was like, he could be on the Wolves too. He looks like that. Maybe it's just the blue on the West team, but as a starter for 22 games last year, he averaged 16 points per game, 8 assists and 4 rebounds. I mean, I think if the Wizards decide to keep him around instead of using him as a trade piece in the full rebuild, that will be interesting how they use him. But we'll talk about the Wizards next week.
Sadly, we will, in fact, talk about the Wizards next week. I'm not excited for that. Although, you know, maybe they'll be fun. We'll save it for next Wednesday. Let's move on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who many people would consider calling the Wizards of the West. Last year, they were 42-40. Really, the Trailblazers are the Wizards of the West. Last year, they were 42-40. This year, Vegas has them at 44.5. I'll get started on this one. I know this burned me last year. But yet again this year, I'm taking the over, and I'm smashing the over on this one. There was no way to expect that Karl Anthony Towns was only going to play 29 games, considering he's been essentially an Iron Man for the rest of his career prior to that point. There are also issues with D'Angelo Russell, who is now on the Lakers. They moved him. They got Mike Conley. Mike Conley is a player who fits this team significantly better than a guy like D'Angelo Russell. Mike Conley would fit probably 28 out of 30 teams more than D'Angelo Russell would. I'm expecting improvements from Naz Reid. I'm expecting improvements from Jaden McDaniels, assuming he doesn't punch any more walls. And I'm expecting improvement from Anthony Edwards, who I've talked about a lot over the past few months. I'm expecting him to become a top, 7 to 12 player in the league. And for a team like that, I think you're probably going to be a little bit closer to 50 wins, particularly because it's kind of a young team and they want to prove something in the regular season because they don't know how to pace themselves for the playoffs. I'm taking the over. I'm smashing the over. I'm looking forward to Modi taking the under, though, and telling me why I'm wrong.
Yeah, this is an underplay. I just need to see it first. Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert have a 14-13 record together. They're basically a 500 team. Yes, part of that was with D'Angelo Russell, as you mentioned, who's a losing player. I don't know, man. Like, that's just a team full of losers. And then Anthony Edwards is kind of how I feel. I love Mike Conley, but he's so old at this point. He's not necessarily one that can change a culture. Anthony Edwards can. And if I'm going to be wrong, it's going to be because of Anthony Edwards. And I'm okay with that. But I don't trust Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert to play together. I don't trust them separately. Rudy Gobert was in a winning team with the Jazz forever. Karl-Anthony Towns has never been on a winning team before. I don't think he's a winning player either. He's just a talented offensive player. He's D'Angelo Russell on steroids, who's just taller. Like, that's literally who he is to me. And then there is the health factor. Rudy Gobert's older. Anthony Edwards, I love, but he plays like a psychopath, which makes him incredible to watch. It's the same fear with John Morant. Like, it's just scary every time they go up. And I was with you. I was all over them last year. I got burned. I'm never going to trust a Minnesota team to do anything again for the rest of my life. I love Anthony Edwards, so I would be happy to be wrong and him to prove me wrong, but I just need to see it first, is how I feel.
It's a totally fair take. I'm probably going to get burned by this one, but I'm doubling down. I'm doubling down on my loss. Ferentinos, how do you see the Timberwolves doing?
I'm riding with you, Griffin. I'm throwing money and I'm smashing the over on the Wolves.
Let's go.
Just from preseason action, Conley looks great. Of course, I was like, oh, no surprise. Mike Conley looks awesome. And just getting there late last year past the trade deadline. Of course, he's not going to gel in time. And with Cat missing so many games and them still winning 42, 44 to me just seems like really easy money. And then when you look at their big men, Gobert's one of the best centers in the league. Cat's one of the most talented scorers, big men. And then Anthony Edwards, I think, is going to be talked about as an MVP candidate this year. I think that he started to play that role. Obviously, the FIBA team did not win. I would have liked them to win. I don't think it was because Anthony Edwards didn't come up, though. I think he would probably still, on the next USA Olympic team next year, I think he could be featured as still one of the best players. I think he's going to take a step this year. I'm smashing it. Give me that over, and I'm going to collect this money at the end of the season.
So one question with you before we move on. Do you think Anthony Edwards is going to be a genuine MVP candidate where he would be an MVP candidate any year? Or do you think it's going to be because the other MVP candidates don't play 65 games and Anthony Edwards is probably going to try and play all 82?
No, I mean, John Moran was talked about as an MVP candidate among a lot of great players that were also MVP candidates.
We didn't call that MVP. Yeah, we said he would win an MVP before Luka Doncic, and I just don't know if we're going to be right about that. But there was that one year where it seemed like he was trending in that direction.
I just think a lot of the times you saw Cat taking the big shots at the end of the game. I feel like Edwards would more slide into whenever they needed scoring, but I think he's going to start becoming the alpha on that team. I think in end of the game situations, he's going to be the guy taking the shot. I think it's more going to run through Edwards as opposed to running through the big men. So, I mean, if I'm wrong and that doesn't work out, that would be terrible, but I do think he's going to step up. He's just added to his bag every single year. And yeah, he looks awesome. I'm in on the Timberwolves.
And you're smashing the over as well?
Smashing. This is a smash.
Okay. So we've got 2 smash overs and 2 unders. Elliot also took the under. Let's move on to the New Orleans Pelicans. Last year, they went 42-40. This year, Vegas has them at 44.5, right in that same range as 7 other teams in the West and a bunch of teams in the East. 44.5 is where the money is apparently this year. Modi, let's start with you on the Pelicans.
Yeah, they're another shrug emoji. I have no idea. They were 19-27 once Zion got hurt, and I think they were the 1 seed in the West or 2. They were up there when he got hurt. I'm taking the under. It's one of those am I going to count on Zion to stay healthy? No. They proved 2 years ago that they can win without him. They very much didn't do that last year, and the West is so deep. I don't really even the teams that are bad aren't going to be as bad as they were last year. And I just can't get there. They're brutal after Zion got hurt. Why on earth would we trust him to stay healthy for any semblance of games? If he's not healthy, I don't think they're gonna have a winning record without him. So I'll take the under. But it's one of those ones. I think there's like 5 West teams that the wide range of outcomes, like nothing would shock me, and they're on that list. But to have an official pick out there, I'm on the under.
Do you guys remember the days during like the 2000s where the best player on every team was playing like 75 plus games? It'd be weird if a guy wasn't playing 80 games. And now we're like, maybe this guy will play 45.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
You sounded really old when you said that, but also I 100% agree.
I feel old when I say that, but like that
you're right.
was fairly recent. And then like Space and Pace came around in like 2014 or so, the Spurs' beautiful game, and then the Warriors. And now guys have more lower body injuries than anybody in the preceding 40 years of the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. And sorry.
Yeah, neither here nor there, just something that occurred to me. I'm going to very slightly disagree with you. This is kind of a shrug for me, but in the other direction, I'm going to take the over. I'm just going to kind of assume that Zion is going to play more than 45 games. If he doesn't, obviously I'm kind of on the same page as you because he is the engine that drives this team. But if we get 60 plus games out of him, they're going to be a 45 win team. Like it's not a crazy thought. Obviously it's a big question. I'm not smashing this one. I don't think I could smash in either direction on this one, but Ferentinos, I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just going to take the under because unfortunately, I don't think Zion's ever going to get fully healthy. He definitely is the key that can unlock that team. He's just such a dynamic player when he is healthy. He's literally looks like Shaq, but then has a jump shot and ball skills. But yeah, I just don't think he's a player that is ever going to get healthy. Brandon Ingram is really talented and dynamic, but he has a ceiling. He can't really carry a team to wins. Love CJ McCollum on offense, but I think he's a minus on defense. They have a lot of players that are good depth pieces, but that's if their stars are healthy. And they're just kind of like the Detroit Lions, or it's like every year they're actually good this year, but you just always think you're like, no, they're not going to be good. Like the Bears, even if there's hype in the preseason, you're like, they're not going to be good. It's like the Timberwolves when there's hype in the preseason, you're like, they're not going to be good. No. But
who would smash that team's over?
We smashed the over for 2 straight years on that team. You're talking us out of our own pick. I get what you're saying. Like I do. Like you look at the Pelicans roster and you're like, there's a lot of talent here, but there's a lot of injury concerns and there's conditioning concerns and there's coaching concerns. And there's just like something about the Pelicans when they had Anthony Davis. They had one of the best two-way players that we've seen in the modern era. They just couldn't get out of their own way because the injuries pop up. I don't know. Maybe it's the strength and conditioning team. Yeah. And Mirotic, right? He was like their number 4 guy, and they were just obliterating teams. It lasted 20 games, and they went like 15-5, and then it all came crashing down.
The Cousins injury was brutal.
Elliot also has the over on this one. So this one, we're going to go 3-1 in the direction of the over. But I don't think anyone feels 2-2.
Yeah, I'm on the under.
You're on the under. Oh, I thought you had a slight over. Okay, 2-2. That's great. No one feels strongly about this one. That's fine. Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah.
I would love for the Pelicans to prove the two of you wrong, because I think when they are firing on all cylinders, they're a very fun team to watch, and they've got a fun kind of style of play. But the injuries are a massive concern. Let's move on to the Thunder. Last year, 40-42, just below a 500 team. This year, Vegas has them at 44.5. I'll get started on this one. My notes for this one were pretty self-explanatory. It's not about who they signed or who they added. It's about who's coming back. Healthy Chet, ostensibly. SGA coming off of a FIBA masterclass where he looked like maybe the best player in the FIBA tournament. Jalen Williams, Poku, Dort, Giddey with another year of development. All young guys, all talented guys. There are some questions about their big man depth behind Chet a little bit, because they've got all these like tall, long boys, but no one who's like particularly – you don't have a Steven Adams, which is ironic considering that was his team, or a JV or something like that, like a guy who can bruise in the paint. So there are injury concerns. Last year, they were very healthy outside of Chet Holmgren. So there are concerns on whether that will continue this year. But because they're a young team, I'm taking the over. I'm smashing the over. I think this might be one of the few 50-win teams in the West. I'm a big believer in this OKC team. This is one that I want us to bet on. You guys might disagree with me. Ferentinos, let's go with you.
I'm with you too. I'm smashing this over.
I'll just say 3 for 3. I'm
smashing 3 for 3. Ian Elliott's on the over. We're betting on this one. We're betting on the Thunder, boys.
There you go. Here's my sheet. So yeah, I think Chet's gonna unlock the team. I was watching the preseason game. Shea and Giddey weren't playing, but literally the Thunder Spurs preseason game was pretty electric. Just watching Chet and Wembanyama go back and forth. I mean, he doesn't look like he's lost a step. He's got a nice 3-point shot, offensive rebounding, creating. Everything is there. The Thunder have been doing a really good job of drafting guys that are playmakers. No matter what position they are, they know how to pass, they know how to dribble, they know how to move without the ball, they can cut. I just feel like they're one of those teams that play really well as a team. And yeah, basically Chet, Shea, and Giddey as like kind of your core, and then Jalen Williams, who averaged 14 points in his rookie season, and he's just super explosive, great ball handling. Just watching him get to the lane and then throw a dunk down is electric. I really think that I wish I drafted him first overall.
Is Jalen Williams going to be the Markelle Fultz of our draft, where he should have, or sorry, the Jason Tatum of our draft, where he should have gone
I was going to say the Markelle Fultz.
And someone else got in front of him.
Don't you dare put that on anybody.
I meant to flip it. I apologize. Is he going to be the Jason Tatum of that draft, where we're all going to look at it and be like, man, Modi really got this right. Modi is like the Danny Ainge of our group.
Well, like Danny Ainge, I was a big bully in that draft, so I think yes.
Yeah, well, it's not the Boston in you, but it's very much the Boston in him. You know, he was on some nasty teams. Modi, anything to add on the Thunder, or are you just kind of on the same page?
No, I mean, I didn't. This was a smash smash over. It's my my second and final smash play. I had that in my notes as a smash over before you guys said anything, so it wasn't groupthink. The only thing that I'll add that you guys didn't say is I'm very interested to see what they do with their rotations, because I feel like they're one of those teams that you could legitimately say they have 13 to 15 playable players, and that's not going to happen in the regular season. So it's going to be one of those things where like, maybe someone plays for 10 games in the rotation, and then they sit them out and they try someone else in the rotation for 10 games. So if it goes under, that's probably going to be why. It's because A, they're a young team, and B, they might just tinker with their rotations so much, trying to figure out, all right, like who's even going to stick on this roster. But I mean, but that's not me taking the under. Obviously, I'm smashing the over for all the reasons you guys said. SGA took a massive leap last year. He took another massive leap in FIBA. Chat looks awesome. Jalen Williams is awesome. I love Josh Giddey. I like their rookie class. Kaysen Walich, I think, is really good. And they just have a ton of dudes I mean, they basically have what my ideal expansion team was. Just have a bunch of really, really young guys that are really talented. And that's like what I fall in love with. That's my favorite type of team. That's why I love the old OKC team. So yeah, I love it. All in on the Thunder.
It's a bunch of long boys who basically are all Swiss Army knives. They can all play multiple positions. They can all do a little bit of everything, but they're not in the position the Raptors were in, where they have a lot of guys who are good at a bunch of stuff, but the one thing exactly they can't score the ball. They can't shoot. OKC can do that, and SGA can do that, and Giddey can do that, and Chet is probably going to be able to do that. Dort can do that. Like, Dort is kind of come out of nowhere, dude, where he's one of their most valuable players. I'm so high on this Thunder team, which means that I'm probably going to be disappointed. But let's just talk them in ahead of time. They're also probably going to be like one of our league pass favorites. They're going to be like the league pass team of the year.
For sure.
All right, let's move on to the Phoenix Suns. Last year, 45-37. And this year, Vegas has them at 52.5. Ferentinos, you're a big Kevin Durant guy. How's this team going to do?
I'm a hater, so I'm going to say the under, just because I think 53 wins is what the 1 seed was last year, and they got 52 as their over-under. I still think they're going to be one of the best teams in the West. They're going to have one of the best offenses in the West. They're still extremely deep. They have Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, who I think Devin Booker might be the best player on this team. I think he's really going to step up. I'm curious to see I mean, Bradley Beal hasn't played in a while. I just haven't seen him play basketball in a while, so I want to see how that looks. If Nurkic can stay healthy, I think he but Nurkic has always been a positive on the Blazers when he's been healthy. I feel like they always looked really dangerous in the playoffs, but then he would get hurt and then things would just kind of fall apart for that team. I love Yuta Watanabe. I thought that he was one of their best step pieces. Eric Gordon is still going to be a guy that can get buckets for them off the bench. I think that they're going to be a team that is able to sign veterans. I'm curious to see, like, as the season goes on, who they're able to sign on their team and pick up. Grayson Allen sucks because he's on Duke, but he's going to be a decent rotational piece, I think, for them. But it is kind of dependent. I mean, I'm taking the under on the Mavs because I hate Kyrie. Kevin Durant did us dirty, so I'm taking the under. If he can play and his team could play to their potential, I think it'd be the most entertaining just as a basketball fan. But I think it's a lot. I just think the West is also going to be really competitive this year. So I think there's a reason why so many teams are at 44 and they're over under. There just hasn't been as much talent in the league as there is right now. So wins are going to be harder to come by, especially if you don't have Kevin Durant. So if he plays 65 plus, it might be easy to get the over, but I'm taking the under.
Yeah, you basically can't look at a team in the West and say this team is straight up awful. Like, you don't have a 12-win team or a 17-win team. We might end up seeing one because of the way the season shakes out, but there's no predictions for a team like that. I am on the same page as you, but I'm smashing the fuck out of the under. I'm smashing that as hard as I've ever smashed anything in my life. I'm Hulk smashing.
I'm gonna smash it too. I'm gonna smash it.
You're gonna smash it. You're gonna smash it with me. Let's smash it together.
Eiffel Tower is under together.
Gonna do a little Eiffel Tower smash between me and Ferentinos. Just like a weirdly shaped Eiffel Tower, though. Because I am a full foot taller than you. They were 15-11 last year after the KD trade, which is all well and good. A lot of that really didn't have anything to do with Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant wasn't playing. Kevin Durant last year played 43 games in total. Bradley Beal played 50 games in total. Devin Booker played 53 games, and Nurkic played 52 games. None of these guys broke 55 games. I don't expect them to have Devin Booker will probably have better health. I'm not expecting Bradley Beal to turn into an Iron Man. I'm not expecting Kevin Durant to play 60 games. He might play in the 50s. And Nurkic every year progressively is getting less and less healthy. He's had a lot of stuff where he's breaking down year by year. I don't really believe in him. And I talked about that during the episode where we talked about the Ayton trade. They don't really have a ton of genuine front court depth outside of him. They've got a bunch of bench pieces. But if your bench pieces are your starting center next to a bunch of guys who need the ball all the time, I just don't feel good about it. Like, there's no true defensive center on this team. They could prove me wrong, but I just don't believe in this roster construction. To me, it feels like a lesser version of the Nets super team. And we've talked about this. Devin Booker might be better than the majority of the guys that were on that Nets super team. Bradley Beal's worse than them. And Kevin Durant is 3 years older than he was when they formed that team. I don't believe in them. I'm smashing the under. Before we move on to Modi, I'll also say Elliot took the under on this one. So Modi, last up.
Yeah, I want to take the over just to disagree with everybody, but I'm going to go true to my notes. I have the under. I think that they're going to be a top 2 team in the West. I still think that they're not going to win 53 games. That's just too many for a team that has all the uncertainty that you guys laid out. I think they probably have the potential to be the best team in the league, and if some miracle happens and they all play 65 games, they're going to win 60 of those games, probably something like that. Like, they're going to be really good. Or sorry, they're not going to win 60 to 65. They're going to win 60 games.
They'll win 60 total. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. The biggest, I have the notes, or I have the point about the Nets in my notes, just like you do. The biggest difference is they don't have a James Harden. Like, Harden that first year was phenomenal. Like, literally was people saying, should he get MVP votes, despite the fact that he just totally tanked on a team prior to coming to Nets. He was so good on that Nets team, and they don't have the facilitator. None of those guys they're all like good passers while not being good passers. It's one of those things where, like, because passing isn't their main thing, they're like, oh, they're actually pretty decent passers. Like, they're all decent, but they don't have a floor general. And that's incredibly important for a team like this. I do think that their depth is better than people give it credit. I like the Ayton trade lowered their ceiling. It bolstered their depth at least. I like Keita Bates-Diop. I think he's good. I think he's better than people give him credit for. You mentioned Eric Gordon. You mentioned Yuta Watanabe. The fact that their starting center is Nurkic and their backup center is the dude from the playoffs who like Jock Landale. Yeah, Jock Landale is not a good sign. I think they're still going to be really good. And I think that like if they won the title, I wouldn't be shocked. But there's too many. It's the same reason why I took the Lakers. There's just too many reasons why this team can go under for me to feel confident. And like you said, their over-under is the highest in the West, tied with the Nuggets. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, that is a big part of it. Is that's insane to me that they are projecting them on regular season record to be tied with the champions. And granted, yeah, they were a good playoff team, but playoffs and regular season are wildly different things. They only won 45 last year, and that was, with they had a very weird year, and I don't really expect them to not have a weird year this year. Like nothing about this Suns team the past couple of years has said to me, this is a team that is going to be consistent. It's a team that is going to be great when they're great, but when they're not great, they're going to look bad. They're going to have injuries. I don't trust the health. It looks like we're all taking the under on the Suns. Ferentinos and I are smashing it. Elliot and Modi are just taking a standard under. Let's move on to the Trailblazers. Last year, the Blazers with Damian Lillard were 33-49. This year, no Damian Lillard. Vegas has them projected at 28.5 games. Ferentinos, let's start with you on this one.
I'm going to take the under right now on the Blazers. I am pretty hype. I was pretty hype post Dame trade and thought they got a really good return. I think that there's still a possibility that they move Malcolm Brogdon. I know he's not the best locker room fit, and especially on a team where Scoot's going to be the guy. Like they moved Lillard, they got him away. Simons is one of the best shooters and a really talented scorer. So I think that Brogdon's just really not going to fit. Don't really know what you're going to do with Robert Williams when he's healthy. He's one of the best defenders in the league. So I think with him and maybe, Dominating? That is a self-proclaimed
Dominating, baby. Get ready for Dominating.
So, I'm a believer in Scoot. I think Scoot's going to be awesome. I think that if Shaedon Sharpe can take a step forward and Simons continues to just progress as he has, he's a 6'3" undersized guard. So I think it's always going to be a little difficult for him on defense, similar to like a CJ McCollum. But they have Jeremy Grant. I mean, there's a lot of pieces around Scoot Henderson to succeed. I think that both Ayton and Williams, if he's healthy, would be great people to run pick and roll offense with. I just don't think they're going to. This is one of the teams where I just don't think they're going to get a lot of wins in the West because there are so many talented teams. That's why I'm taking the under. I know it's 28.5, right? Yeah. 28.5.
Yeah.
They were 33-49 last year. I don't think this is going to be any better than that. I think they'll be close to that, but I think they're just new team, got to put all the pieces together. It's going to be a Scoot growing season. Don't really know what is going to happen with a lot of the pieces there. There still could be trades and stuff involved because they are rebuilding this year. They're definitely going to be a team to look for in the future, but I'm taking the under this year.
Modi?
Yeah, I agree. I have the under. I like a lot of their young pieces, but the reality is teams with rookie point guards just don't win a lot of games. It's really freaking hard to be a point guard in this league. And a lot of times you see people like De'Aaron Fox takes a leap like 5 years after he's been in the league. And they're one of the few teams that aren't trying to win. And that kind of burned me last year because I thought there were a couple teams that weren't trying to win that ended up being way better than I thought. I don't think that's going to be the case with the Blazers. Are we sure that Chauncey Billups is a good coach? Like, what is the evidence that he's a good coach? He's been there for 2 years and they've tanked at the end of the year because they suck to get better draft picks. So even if this is a talented roster that could make a leap, I'm not necessarily sure that Chauncey Billups is going to be the guy to help them reach that ceiling. And sure, revenge Ayton season. As a center who's not nearly as talented as like some of the best centers in the league, what's a revenge season for him even mean in terms of wins and losses? He also can't play defense. Yeah. So the number's too low for it to be a smash under for me, but it is an under.
Yeah, a lot of controversy over the hiring of Chauncey Billups for him to then kind of come in and just be like pretty not average to below average. Like you're not like having this controversy for like Pop or for Steve Kerr or something like that. You're having it for Chauncey Billups. Yeah. Even Ime Udoka, who found a job again very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the over on this team. I think this is kind of a confusing one because I do think they're worse than last year in terms of like their overall potential, but I think they're likely going to be a little bit more consistent game to game. I think they've kind of built out the depth a little bit. This is kind of like, not that I root for the Trailblazers, but it's kind of frustrating to see a Trailblazers team that looks like it will be very good in a few years. And Dame never really had the opportunity to have players of this caliber on his team after LMA left. And obviously you had the Odin stuff and you had the Brandon Roy stuff and all that. So none of that was Dame's fault or the front office's fault, but it is the way that it shook out. I'm not taking them to be a good team. I'm taking them to probably be like a 30-win team, but I do think they're going to be slightly over. But if they ended up being a 25-win team, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Elliot also took the under, so this one is 3-1 in favor of the under. Let's move on. We've got a few teams left. Let's move on to the Sacramento Kings. Last year, they went 48-34. This year, Vegas has them at 44.5. 44.5 feels a little bit too low to me, so I'm going to say over, but barely. I'm barely taking the over, and a big reason that I think it's going to be barely, like a lot of times you see a young team have a good year where they win 45 to 48 games, and then you're like, oh, next year they're going to be a 50-win team. They were the healthiest team in the NBA last year. I don't know if that is going to be consistent this year. I think teams are going to game plan for them a little bit better. They're going to be good, but they're going to be in the range of a lot of these teams. They're probably going to be, a 46, 47, maybe 48-win team again. I don't see them becoming a 50-win team. I also don't see them being a 500 team. They've got a little bit too much talent for that, a little bit too much continuity for that. But it's just the slightest over for me. Ferentinos?
Like the beams, I'm smashing this over. I think that this is a team.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a believer. I think that they did change the culture last year under Mike Brown and this young roster. I think De'Aaron Fox is the truth. I don't really see him taking a step back. Malik Monk was having amazing games. He was providing a lot of scoring. I think he really elevated his career on that team instead of on Charlotte, which is where you go for careers to die. I think they're going to be terrible. We'll get to that. I think
there's a lot of East Coast teams you go to for careers to die.
Yeah.
But I think just the way that the Kings looked, I think that they have continuity in the roster. There wasn't a lot of turnover. They have a lot of young pieces. I really like Kevin Huerter. I like the way Harrison Barnes fits on this team. Sabonis is really good. I'm glad that he just dominated on the Kings, and it was kind of a win-win trade, in my opinion, for the Halliburton deal. I mean, we see Halliburton's potential now and on FIBA and everything, but I just think the way it worked out, and I don't think Fox would have really unlocked and became the player that he did if it wasn't for Halliburton leaving the team. So I just like the continuity. I like the culture. I like Mike Brown. I like that they lowered their win total from last year, and I'm lighting the beam, smashing the over.
I'm also taking the over. Elliot says smash, don't care. I don't know what direction that's in, if that's an over or an under.
So also, of all the teams to not care about, you don't care about the most fun story of last year. Literally the best vibes team in the NBA, and that's the one you don't care about. Canada people, man. I swear to God.
Yeah. But this isn't over for me. How many teams have we talked about in the West where we just have no idea what to expect? The Kings are not one of those teams. They know exactly who they are. They're like Ferentino said, the continuity from what they had last year. I could see this being almost an exact scenario of what happened last year, where there's so many teams in the West that just couldn't get out of their own way. And then here are the Kings lighting the beam, just constantly winning games. I could see that same exact thing happening. Their best players were still young enough. They don't expect them to take a step back. If anything, you could expect them to possibly take a step forward, especially with Fox. And then with the rookie Keegan Murray last year, he could take another step forward. Another player that was drafted to my elite squad last week came into Summer League, played one game, immediately was too good for Summer League. I love bringing up that point. I love situations where that happens. I just think that's when you can easily see the leap from a player. I think that's a good sign. And 90% of the top 10 of the projected top 10 in the West, you have no idea what to expect. The Kings are not that team. So I think they're just going to win games solely because of that fact. So I'm not smashing it. I am taking the over.
Sure. All right. So we're going to call it 3.5 overs because he took a smash don't care. Let's chalk that in as an over just because Elliot's going to agree with us. So we're going to go 4-for-4 on the Kings. We're all taking the over. Let's move on to one of the most interesting teams in the West, the San Antonio Spurs. Last year, they went 22-60. This year, they have the over-under at 28.5. I'm going to get this one started. I'm going to take the under. I don't think they're going to be they're going to be noticeably better. Let me not say that. I don't think they are going to be a good team. I don't think they're going to be a 30-win team, which is essentially what this requires. There are going to be growing pains. They added Cedi Osman and Reggie Bullock. I don't care about that. That doesn't do anything for me in terms of looking at their win total. I also generally, and the stats kind of parse this out, rookies don't add to win totals. We went through this months ago, I think, when we were talking about the draft. LeBron James added 18 wins to the Cavs after he got drafted. They were a really, really, truly terrible team, and they were still under 500. He added 18 wins. He played 40 minutes per game to do that, and he was LeBron James. Melo did that when he went to the Nuggets. The two of them are basically the only times where guys who are either 1 year out of college or right out of high school, or just like guys under 19 or 20, have immediately contributed to 5 or more wins. It doesn't happen. Larry Bird is like an exception that people are going to look at. Larry Bird doesn't count because he was like 23 by the time he went to the Celtics. I don't see it happening with the Spurs team. They're going to be fine. People are going to be disappointed in them for all the wrong reasons because there's going to be so much potential there, but this is not the year. You got to build slowly. You got to build over time. I'm taking the under on the Spurs. Modi, what's up?
I agree with you for a lot of the same reasons. I think they're going to also just play it really safe with him. They're probably going to get him to play exactly 65 games so he can get Rookie of the Year. But it's going to 17 games missed, and this roster is terrible. Like you said, Cedi Osman and Reggie Bullock doesn't do anything to me. I like the guy they just signed, Devin Vassell. Like, he's fine. Mm-hmm. Keldon Johnson's fine. Go ahead.
Devin Vassell is going to be good. I think Devin Vassell is a good building block, but building blocks don't win you 10 games on their own like a lot of genuinely currently good players do.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they know that this isn't their year. Like, it's going to be in a couple of years when they're going to be really good, and they're going to keep it really safe with him. Like, make sure his body's right, that he can withstand the physical nature of getting into the NBA, being someone who's skinny as a stick. It's possible that just like getting the presence of Wembanyama just enhances everything about the Spurs, and they're good without him. But I just think this roster is terrible, and adding a rookie center, like you said, is not going to make them significantly better. So under for me.
I think we're in unison. I'm also taking the under. I think Wembanyama is going to be just a draw no matter what. They're going to be talked about a lot, but I don't think anyone really has high expectations for this team. If I was a school teacher, I would be terrified to get this list of students and try to pronounce their names, because I'm just looking at this list. Sandro Mamukelashvili.
Probably don't try it. Probably don't even try
Julian Champagnie.
Champagnie. Yeah.
There you go.
He was on I watched him with one of the summer league. It might have been the Spurs summer league squad. He actually played pretty well. Like, he was fun to watch. He's not good though. Yeah, so I want to be very clear. He's not a good player. He's just fun to watch.
You know, my boy Kem Birch putting in work.
The easiest name on the roster.
Kem Birch.
Kem Birch sounds like a type of tree.
Isn't birch a type of tree?
It is in fact a tree. A Kem Birch is probably a tree from a very specific region. You're taking the under as well?
Yeah, just for the same, reasons that you guys listed, and also 7'4" centers who are built like a stick, don't have the greatest injury history. I'm hoping that that's not the case with Wembanyama. Would like to see him play a full, long career, because he is exciting. Just like the shots that he can block, you're just like, what the? It's just so casual. He's just there. And if he goes across the court, like, he's a massive presence. It's really cool to watch him do like windmills dunks, because he gets like this much off the ground, but it's because he's 7'4".
He's just rotating his arm. He's not even jumping. Like, he's just rotating.
But yeah. I mean, like, he was pulling threes, and he kind of struggled from shooting in summer league, but Just watching him against Chet, like he was pulling them and is really dynamic player. They're just not going to be that great this year. I'm taking the under.
All right. So 3 for 3 on the three of us. Elliot has them as easy over.
Yeah.
Which to me feels crazy. But look, if 7 months from now we come back to this and they've won 39 games or something like that, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to give them praise. But like, I just disagree with that strongly.
Yeah.
All right. Last team of the West, the Utah Jazz. Last year they won 37 games. This year Vegas has them at 35.5. My notes for this feels right. They're going to be below average but competitive. So I'm barely going to take the over because I think they're going to finish with the same number of wins as last year. Ferentino, what's up with you? You liked the Jazz last year a lot. Oh, Moda, you were
going to say. Well, this was my team. If I was as confident in the Kings as I was the Jazz, I would have looked like a genius last year. But
you got a thing with the Jazz, man.
For the first few months, I was looking like a genius. I just think that
it was the first month.
It was like
year.
a month. They were like 15-9, and Ferentino's was like championship team,
top 3 seed in the West.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team that I think just drafts really well. I'm really excited to see Keontae George, as we've talked about. I think Walker Kessler is one of the best kind of young centers that just right off the bat, this is a really good fit. I just think the Jazz know how to draft really well. I really like Colin Sexton. They got Jordan Clarkson, who's still really well, 6th man of the year. Kelly Olynyk, who's annoying, but is just a really good freaking basketball player. But I see the scene. The Jazz are always kind of competitive. They're one of those teams that always works it out. I think Lauri Markkanen is a great player. He really took a step up last year, and I think he's just going to continue to do that. So yeah, I'm taking the over, not by too much. I'm not going to smash it, but I definitely think they're going to get over their win total this year.
You know what I like most about Kelly Olynyk? The real answer is nothing. But the thing that I like most about us and anybody else when they talk about Kelly Olynyk is they're like, yeah, he's a good player, but I fucking hate him. No one's ever just like, he's a good player, hard stop. It's always, he's a good player, but I'd slap him in the face if I saw him in public.
I mean, you don't need to tell a Wizards fan that you hate Kelly Olynyk.
I was going to say, he was the reason
I've had a very up and down history with Kelly O's, I'll tell you that.
I don't know the joke there. I'm guessing that's what's the other
Kelly Oubre.
Oh, Oubre, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot that okay.
It does start with an O, yes. It doesn't sound like it does, but it does. Modi, were you saying that you also have the over on this one?
Yeah, very, very slight over. A little baby back.
Are we all taking 37 and 45 again? Are we all locking in the same record?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
We should bet exact record on that one. We should throw a bet in.
They allow it. We can look into that. Yeah, I mean, they're just like a fine team. They have like fine enough talent. They have fine enough coaching. I do like some of their young pieces. I like Lauri. Keontae George, I'm with you. He's a stud. Walker Kessler was awesome for them last year. And I think that management wants them to tank, but I think the coaching's too good. I think the players are too good. So I think they're probably going to win it like exactly 37 games again.
Yeah, they've kind of built too good of a team because they're not able to get the picks that they want to get. Elliot's in agreement with us. He put exactly 35.5, which I don't think he knows how games work.
So does that mean over or under?
He clearly doesn't understand how betting odds work and how over-unders work. Just add to the list of things that Elliot probably doesn't understand. Doesn't matter. We'll say 4-0 on this one again, that we're all taking the over. And yeah, that's it for the Western Conference. Anything else before we go y'all want to touch on? I think we hit everything that we want to say. We're going to be back next week with the Eastern Conference. That'll be tough for the three of us.
Yeah. The only thing that I'll add is we had 4 guaranteed smashes, 6 possible, or an additional 2 possible smashes. Okay. It's the Mavericks under. It's the Lakers under, which that seems painful. Sorry, Griffin. It's the Thunder. We all smashed the over. All 3 of us smashed the over. It's the Suns under, and then it's possible the Kings and the Jazz over.
Okay. Yeah, with that in mind, I don't know if I said at the top of the show, we are likely going to be betting at least the ones that we smashed. We'll wait until we have our Eastern Conference ones in as well. And if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you can follow along with us. You can bet with us as well. We don't have any promo codes for you right now, but actually, that might not be true. Modai might have promo codes. If he does, we will link them somewhere. Apparently, he does not. We'll get there. We will get there. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Give and Go Show. We will be back next Wednesday night, same time, same station, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. We will be talking about the Eastern Conference over-unders, which includes Ferentinos' Nets, Modai's Sixers, and my Bullets. I'm not going to call them by their current name because it's a bad name. Then the week after that, the season will have started. We'll be going through the opening games of the season. And then from there, we are fully in the season. We'll have a lot of really great content. We're going to have League Pass teams of the week. We're going to have betting content every week. There's a lot of things to look forward to. All of that coming in the next few months with the Give and Go Show. Make sure you're following us on your preferred platform. Make sure you're following us on social media. And we will see you next time.
Peace
out.